Hi coders, I'm Matt Landers with Covalence, and in this lecture we're going to talk about how to use TypeScript with React. There's some things that you're going to want to know as you start to integrate the two together, and over the next few lectures we're going to go over how it works in depth and cover some of the basics on why you do things, how you do things within React and TypeScript, because it can be a little bit frustrating when you first get started. So the first thing to note is that I'm starting from our bare bones template that we have for you, our boilerplate. The link will be in the activity or on the video where you can go clone that and start from the same point as well. I haven't done anything to it, so it's straight from scratch, and the next videos will build on top of each other. So in this video, we're just going to review how it's already set up and talk about how it's actually working. All right, so just for a reminder, in case you haven't seen this, all it is a really simple project that has hello world pop out. There's an API that gets called, and then it just has a dummy API that returns world from API/hello, and then we display that onto the screen here in our component. So let's go ahead and dig in and start seeing what's going on here as far as TypeScript is concerned. So we import React. So this is similar to the ES6 syntax that you've seen if you've done React with JSX, with JavaScript. In this, we're doing it with TypeScript, so it works the same way. So a lot of the things that you would do with Babel, where you can use ES6 syntax or JavaScript.next, is going to work within TypeScript. The difference is that we're going to add these typings to everything, and it's going to make your life a lot easier once you get used to using them. All right. So one of the things you're going to notice right off the bat is this right here. So this is a generic. So the typings for React have these generic types that can be passed in whenever you're declaring a class for a component. And the first one is the typings for your properties, so this.props that are on your component. And the second one is for state, so this.state. You'll notice that state has something here. So at the bottom I have my interfaces. These are where these are defined. So all these are an interface, if you don't know, is just a way to declare a type. So what we're saying is that my state has a name on it and the type is string. And props, I don't have anything on here right now. So let's look at what this means, what it's actually doing. So if I come up here somewhere in my code just to show you how this is working, if I type this.state you'll see that I have name. That's coming from this interface that I defined here. So let's add something else. We'll add ID number. And then when we go up and hit .state here, we'll see that we get that IntelliSense. That's coming from this interface that we're putting in the generic declaration here. All right, so we know how that works. Now let's look at the properties. Let's just move this number up to props and save it. Now when we go here, we do this.props. We get ID and children. Children is always on our props, so that will just always consistently be there. Now, one of the things to remember in TypeScript while you're working in React is that if you install something, like let's say that I install React-router, okay? Whoops, npm install React-router. I also want to make sure that I install the typings. So I installed the router. Now I want to install the typings. You can do this on the same line too. And usually it's the same name as whatever the component was. And it's @types/react-router. And you can always check to make sure the typings are there by doing that. And a lot more projects these days are actually being created with the typings bundled into the project itself. So some of them you don't need to do this, but if you find that it's like, I don't know what this object is or something like that, just make sure you install the types and then they will be there for you to use. So that's a big thing that you want to do. Now one thing you'll notice here is that like this.state, I'm putting name in here. So if I type something wrong, like ID, it's not going to compile. It's telling me that ID does not exist on the iapp-state interface. So that's really saving us some time here so that we know that we're typing in the right things and that we're not going to have errors at runtime by having these design time checks. That's the whole point of TypeScript. It's really great once you get used to using it. For the basics, that's really what you need to know is to, whenever you create a component, You want to define your interfaces for your props and your state. You want to put them as part of your declaration, and you'll do this for every single component. And also when you're doing your constructor, you're going to want to add it here too. So your props need to have the type in the constructor. They're going to be passed in, and then that will propagate everywhere where this is used as well. So like if you were declaring the app, for instance, over here, and there was a property, it would, so like this is saying the ID is not declared here. So it knows, if I hit the IntelliSense, ID is here, and I have to pass in ID, and it has to be a number. If I were to make this a string, it's not going to work. It's telling me that ID needs to be a number, not a string. So it even forces you in the JSX for it to work as well. Now, in this case, that's not actually what I want to happen, so I'm going to go ahead and take that out. And then in the next couple lectures, we're going to go over some other things that you're going to want to know about how TypeScript and React interact with each other. But that's a really important one that you're going to use all the time, because every component that you create, you're going to want to create these interfaces for your props and state, put them on your declaration for your class, and then you're good to go with using that inside of that class. So, all right, I'll see you in the next couple lectures. Happy coding.